Hey guys, so today we're going to talk about surface area of right rectangular prisms. And this can be a little confusing, but I'm hoping to find a way to show you guys an easy way to solve these types of questions. Okay, so first of all, I want to show you this prism that we've got here. This is just, a rectangular box. And you should have already talked about how to find the volume of a right rectangular prism like this. And the formula for finding the volume is length times width times height. So let me write that down. Okay, so if we're talking about volume, we have length times width times height. Okay, and on a rectangular prism like this, okay, let's look at it from this angle. If I wanted to get the length of this right rectangular prism, I would look at a side and I would count the length. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this right rectangular prism has a side length of 6 units. Okay. Now for the width, okay, let's look at it from over here. We would take this measurement for the width. Okay, and so counting those squares, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So our width on this right rectangular prism is 5. Now for the height, we're going to go from the bottom edge all the way to the top, and we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. So this right rectangular prism has a length of 6, a width of 5, and a height of 4. Okay, so if we multiply those together, 6 times 5 is 30. 30 times 4 is 120. So our volume for this right rectangular prism is 120 units. Okay, cubed. It's cubed because whatever our units are here, we would be multiplying it times those units 3 times. So that would be, if this was inches, it would be inches times inches times inches, and it would be inches cubed. But we're just going to call them units, okay, square units. So it's square units cubed. Now, what if I wanted to know the total surface area of this right rectangular prism? Okay, and by surface area, I mean every single side of this shape, of this prism, of this box, has a surface. And we can calculate the area of each one of these sides, right? Because the formula for area, when we're talking about a four-sided quadrilateral like this, is just length times width. So let's look at what the area would be for each surface of this box. Now you'll notice that I've got them color-coded, and that is because the sides that are opposite one another are going to be the same, right? So I've got this side, and if I flip it over, it's the exact same size. So that's why I've got them both blue. The green flat side right there, if I flip it over to the other green side, okay, it's going to also be the same dimensions, the same area. And then I've got the orange ends, okay? So I'm going to just clear off this dry erase board, and I'm going to write down the 3 colors that we see here. So we have blue, we have green, and we have orange. Now let's figure out the area of each of these sides, okay? Remember that the area formula is just length times width. So let's start with blue. My blue length and width, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 for my length, and for my width is 4. Okay, so that is 24 for my area. Green, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for my length, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for my width on the green side. That's going to be 30. For orange, let's go with this length right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this width, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's 20. But remember that there's 2 green sides, there's 2 blue sides, and there's 2 orange sides. Okay, And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually unfold this to show you what it would look like as a net. This is called a net for a right rectangular prism. Okay? And you can see that unfolded, these two green sides, they would be opposite if I put them back into their shape of a prism. The two orange sides, those would be opposite one another, and then the two blue sides would be opposite one another. Okay? But unfolded, it looks like this. So we have two green, two blue, and two orange. So that means that each measurement that we got, the 24 for the blue, that represents the 24 squares on the blue. 6 times 4 is 24, but we have two of those. So really this is 24 times 2, which is 48. Okay, that's my surface area for the blue, which ends up being opposite sides. Then for my green, it's 30 for each of these. So it's 30 times 2. So that ends up being 60. And then my orange sides, I've also got two of those. So that's 20 times 2 is 40. Okay, so if I added all of these up, 60 plus 40 is 100, plus 48, that gives me 148. So my surface area for the entire net, for the whole thing, okay, my entire surface area is 148. Now, I want to show you an easier way to do this, okay? So let's hold on to that number right there, but I'm going to erase everything else, okay? We're going to try to see if we can get this number back out with an easier way. Now, let me reshape this rectangular prism, and let's go back to writing down our length, our width, and our height, okay? So length, width, and height. Those are the three measurements that we want. For my length, it doesn't really matter where you start. I'm just going to pick a side here, okay? Let's look at it this way, and let's call this our length. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 for my length, okay? For my width, since this was my length, I need to look at this other side for my width. That's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units for my width, okay? And then my height is up and down, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 for my height. All right? Now, here's the trick I want to show you. We know that we had 6 sides that we had to calculate. And we know that it was really 2 sets of 3 different sides that we're looking at. 3 different sides. Well, what we have are 3 different measurements right here, right? We have a length, a width, and a height. So let me show you what we're going to do. Length times width times height. I want to pair these 2 sides up, or dimensions up. I want to pair these 2 measures up, and I want to pair these measurements up, okay? So what I mean by that is I want to take a length times a width, okay, that's these 2. I want to take a width times a height, that's these 2. And then I want to take a length times a height, okay? I want to take those 3 sets of measurements, okay? So let's look at my length times my width. That would be 6 times 5. My width times my height would be 5 times 4. And my length times my height would be 6 times 4. All right? 6 times 5 is 30. 5 times 4 is 20. 6 times 4 is 24. Let's go ahead and add these up. So this would be 30 plus 20 is 50, plus 24 would be 74. Okay? But remember, this is just 3 measurements, and I had 3 pairs of sides. So we're going to take those 3, we're going to double it. So basically, that length and width that came out to be 30, that width and height that came out to be 20, and that length and height that came out to be 24, I added them all up and got 74, but now I want to double that. Okay, so I want to double that. So now 4 times 2 is 8, 7 times 2 is 14, and look what I got. I got 148. I got the same thing that I got by individually doing each one of these areas, length and width, 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 length and width. Okay? So let me kind of recap that for you. When you have a rectangular prism, this is one that's just all orange for you to look at, and you're asked for the surface area of the entire rectangular prism, I want you to think about your formula for volume, which is length times width times height, because I want you to remember those 3 dimensions, okay? But then I want you to pair these 2 up, pair these 2 up, and pair these 2 up, okay? So that's going to give you length times width when I pair the first 2 up. It's going to give me width times height when I pair those 2 up. And it's going to give me length times height when I pair the last ones up. Okay? Then you're going to go to your rectangular prism and you're going to write down those measurements. You're going to write down, let me move this out of the way so I can write something down over here. So you're going to take your length, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and write it down. Take your width, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and write it down. And then your height, 1, 2, 3, 4, and write it down. Okay? Then you're going to plug in those values in here. So length and width, again, 6 times 5. Width and height, 5 times 4. And length and height, 6 times 4. All right, so we're going to multiply each of these. 30, 20, 24. Now remember that you're wanting to get all the surface here. So each one of these side surfaces, surface areas that you just got, you're going to add them together. You're going to say 20, 30 plus 20 plus 24. But there's a set of each one, right? Because they're opposites. There's a set. So you're going to add these together, but then you're going to multiply the whole thing by 2. Okay? So 30 plus 20 was 50, plus 24 is 74. Multiply it by 2, and you get 148. That is your surface area for your entire net. If you were to count all these squares, you would get 148 total. All right? Please watch this video a couple of times. I think it's going to help you a lot because sometimes you'll just be given a drawing of a prism with the measurements on it. Other times you might just be given the measurements. Okay, you might just be told you have a rectangular prism and you're given the measurements. And now, regardless of whether you have a net or a prism or just the numbers, you can figure out the surface area by remembering length times width times height and pair them up this way. Length times width, width times height, and then length times height. And then you're going to get those numbers. You're going to get those numbers. You're going to add up each set of numbers and you're going to multiply the whole thing by 2. And that's going to give you the whole surface area. Watch the video again and give it a try. If you practice this, you're going to understand it and you're going to get it right on the test. Okay? Bye, guys.